Hey folks, welcome back. So today we are doing a little bit of brush clearing. Now I'll throw a map up on here so you guys can kind of see where we're at, but this is a little bit above where the log house is hopefully going to get moved to, and right in this area there is going to be a fence that's going to be coming kind of right through here and through that mess right there. And this is actually going to be an exclusion fence, which is part of the NRCS program. And so even though this one is a good ways away from the creek, it's still, its main purpose is to keep the cattle out of the creek. And because hopefully the house is going to go a little bit downhill from here, that's why this fence is going so far up. Now, actually this area back here had been sort of kind of cleared out, a year or two ago, but the autumn olive is really bad about coming right back up from roots and stuff that's still in the ground. So we're going to come back through here, see if we can rip some of this back out and sort of get a rough idea of where this fence line is coming through. Alright, well I got that pretty well cleared out of there. Hopefully I'll have the 784, the International, out here later this week, and I'll have the brush hog with that as well. So I'll probably try and get up here and knock the rest of this stuff back with that, really get it cleared out there pretty well. And then I'll be able to see a bit better where I want to bring the fence through. Alright, we're switching locations again. We're moving a little bit further up the hill. And we got a little patch autumn olive in the corner of this field right here. We're gonna see if we can't start knocking some of this out, hopefully get all this cleared out of here in the next couple days. So today I went and picked up a new, very old toy, and that is a Ford model, I think 503 hay rake. So this year I've got use of one of the hay fields here on the farm. The guys that rent it have the rest of the hay fields, but one of them is mine to use. So I'm working on getting some hay equipment here together. Hopefully by the end of this week I'll have a couple more things. But the first thing that I was able to get my hands on is the rake. So I've got the skid steer over here. We're gonna get it unloaded. It's a little bit tight getting this long of a trailer over near the mill house, and especially with having that extra little bit of fence up there, it makes it a little bit tricky to get stuff turned around and whatnot. So we're on the other side of the creek. We're gonna get it unloaded over here, and then we'll just use the tractor to move it to wherever it's going, which I'm not entirely sure where that is yet. All right, so first thing this morning, we need to shuffle some stuff around here, and I need to get the truck inside of our fenced area. I need to get the tractor disconnected from the egg and wagon and get it outside of the fenced area, and then I needed to get the truck back out of the fenced area. So I've got here in the back 2 trash cans full of chicken feed. I don't have a good place to store feed out here at the moment, So I'm just scooping it out of the 1-ton tote that I've got elsewhere, and I'm just bringing a couple cans out at a time. I do this like once a week, once every other week, something like that. And that's working pretty well, and then I just store these inside of the egg and wagon. So the chickens are a little bit hungry right now because I used up the last of the feed yesterday morning. So I really need to get those over there and get them some food. And then with the tractor, I'm gonna use that to go grab the hay rake that we got in yesterday evening, and we'll bring that back over here near the mill house because there's a couple little things that need to be worked on that. Alright, so before we get started on repairing some of the stuff on here that needs work, I'm going to go over all the things so that you kind of have a rough idea of what we're doing. Not all of the stuff we're going to work on fixing right now. I think we'll wait until a little later on, make sure that everything's good on here before I start investing too much time and energy into it. But the first thing is the tines on here. There's a bunch of them on here that are broken. There's like dozen and a half of them. Maybe not quite that many. Probably like a dozen of them that need to be replaced. And they're actually in sets of 2. So this is one unit, this is another unit, and then like you can see on this one and this one, there's only half of it still there. So I need to get some replacements for those. I'm not sure if I'm going to get those quite yet. He would have to be right over there crowing. Not sure if I'm going to get those quite yet. I think it would probably work okay to rake it. I would definitely lose a little bit of hay because of the ones that were missing, but just to test it out, I think I may not get those yet. Now, one thing that definitely does, we got 2 of them going at the same time. One thing that definitely does need to be replaced, or not replaced or fixed, is this right here. So our rake is run off from the PTO, so that connects in here, and then that comes across, goes over to a pulley, comes around over here, and then our pulley belt comes around this thing, and then it turns this, and it's dropped down so I can't turn it now, but then this spins around and those teeth come around and it rakes the hay off to the side. Now the issue is, at some point this looks like run into, and so that's kind of bent in just a little bit there. So I need to see if I can get this pulled out, bent back out, so that it's not messing up our pulley belt here. So that's one thing that definitely needs to get fixed before we start running it. Another thing that needs work is this tire right here. So as you can see, we're actually missing a good chunk out of there. It actually looks like this tire over here is pretty much brand new. It's a little low on air right now, but that one looks really good to go, but we need to get a replacement for this side. And then the last thing I think that needs work is here where this 3-point arm hooks on here. This has broken, so I'm not quite sure what happened here. I don't know if this maybe happened when our pulley over there got run into, or what the deal is. I think this will probably be okay for the time being. This rake isn't super heavy, so I think it'll be okay to leave it for now. I really need to get a torch to be able to heat that up and get that bent back. I don't know that I'd be able to get it back otherwise, and I don't have one, so we're going to hold off on that for the time being. I don't think it's going to hurt it. I'll keep an eye on it, make sure it's not getting any worse, but I think that's something that we're going to leave. So basically the 2 things that we're going to fix for now are a new tire and the pulley wheel. All right, well, I just got a new wheel ordered for there, and originally I was thinking I was just gonna get a new tire, but I started looking at this a little closer, and the rim is starting to get rusted out on that. So I got a whole rim tire combo coming, so should have that here maybe in another week. Now, one thing I did do is I noticed on this one I think is probably original, and it has a grease fitting on it, so you can keep that lubed. The new one over here that was replaced, looks like not too long ago, that does not have a grease fitting on it. So if it looks like this rake is gonna hold up long term, I may actually swap out that new one that's over there for one that has a grease fitting on it, so I can keep that lubricated, so that's not wearing out too fast. But for now, it'll be fine. I've only got, it's like a 6 or 7 acre field that I'm doing this year, so it's not that big of a deal. But speaking of which, I've got a grease gun out here, and we're gonna go ahead and grease all the zerks on here, get all that done, and try and figure out where all of them are. That way, as I'm messing with the rake here, trying to get it up and running, or at least to a certain extent, everything will be greased and ready to go. So I'm going to take another stab at doing this hydraulic filter on the 259D. I got a 30mm socket here, and this seems to be the right size for what we need to get on that and twist that housing off. And then if I can get that switched out, I think we'll probably head back up the mountain, back up to that field that we were working on a couple days ago, see if we can finish getting that cleared out. And depending on how long that takes, we might even head off to another field and start doing some clearing someplace else. But right now it sounds really nice to be sitting inside of there in the AC, because it's 90 something out today, and so the heat index is well over 100 right now. So that sounds pretty nice to be inside the cab, but I really want to get this filter switched out first. Now that it's loosened, we gotta try putting the socket on this guy, and I'm hoping I can turn it further instead of just a little tiny back and forth each time. It might be a little bit more. Oh. I don't have a whole lot of room to get the whole bowl, the whole housing out. I think I'm gonna go grab the filter and see if I can just pull the filter out and slide it back in instead of bringing the whole thing out. I'm not sure if that'll work or not. Old filter, new filter. I think it needed changing. So I forgot that we got one more thing to do before we can go up and start clearing some more brush. And that is that this brush guard hooks on to the main part of the Intimidator with 3 bolts on each side. And these bolts have a habit of coming loose. Now, my preference would be to just weld this thing on here, but my dad actually was talking to Dan User about that, and they said that for whatever reason that doesn't work well. It makes it too rigid, and that it actually needs a little bit of play in there, that the bolts offer something along those lines. Apparently it's a design feature. So when I was up there a couple days ago, I noticed that they were starting to work their way loose, so we're going to tighten these guys up before we head up. And we're actually missing the top one on there, but you know what? I think that'll be good enough for today, and we'll probably have to tighten these back up again once we finish. Well, as you can see, we got all this area cleared out of here. Now, I was kind of thinking that I might try doing some burning this afternoon. We've got some, I don't know, one of these piles up around here has a bunch of dry stuff in it. So I was thinking we could get it started with that and then start throwing some of this green stuff on top of it to try getting this all out of here. Because we've got at least probably 6 or 8, maybe 10 piles of brush around here, so I'd really like to get these out, but I think we just got a little bit too much breeze. So we're gonna start heading back that way, I think into the back pasture, and see if we can do a little bit of clearing back around in there. Well, so as you can see, I picked myself up a baler today. It's a New Holland 847, and as best I can figure, it's about 50-ish years old, 40 years old, something like that. So it's definitely not the latest, greatest, or newest, but it does seem to be in pretty decent condition for as old as it is. Seems that the previous owner did a pretty good job of you know, doing the little maintenance kind of stuff on it and keeping everything well greased and all that sort of stuff. And that's kind of the main thing, is making sure that all the stuff stays greased, because there's so many moving parts on here that if you don't keep up on the lubrication stuff, you're gonna have stuff wearing out really, really quick. Now, one thing with this that I would have preferred not to have, and that is that it's a manual tie. So in other words, you gotta reach out and you gotta turn this crank, which then moves that arm over there, and then you gotta swing it down and back, and that's what ties your bale. You can get these that have an automatic tie, and that would have been really nice. For the International 784 that I'm going to be using with this, it actually has a cab on it, so I may end up having to take out the back window in order to be able to reach through and do this. So this is going to be kind of interesting to see how this is going to work, but the price was right, so I went with this one. All right, so we're jumping ahead a couple hours, and we're going to be getting the last piece of the hay making lineup, we'll call it. And for that, we're hooking up the equipment trailer. I did a wonderful job of backing this thing up, getting it lined up. Definitely did it on the first try. Alrighty, let's hit the road. Alrighty folks, well, I made it back from trip number 2 for today, and I got my my cutting machines here. So I've actually got 2 sickle mowers on here. One of them's a working unit, or so I'm told, and the other one is a for parts one. and they aren't exactly the same model, but they're very, very similar. So a lot of the parts are going to be interchangeable between them, namely the cutter, the cutting teeth, and the rot guards, because those are the main things that you're going to end up breaking or chipping or whatever. And so if I do that with the working one, I can pull those off from the parts cutter and put them on the new one, and I'll be good to go again. So I'm almost out of light here for today, so I'm not going to get these things unloaded in this video, but next time we'll get these things unloaded first thing, and then we'll start messing around with them, seeing if we can get them to work, and messing with the baler and all that sort of stuff, and then maybe, depending on what the weather does, start cutting some hay. But anywho, that is going to be it for this time. As always, I appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you next time.